From my earliest childhood memories all the way into my 30s, whenever anybody would yell out my birth name, Ruth, I would feel like falling down into a fetal position and shaking. And it took a long time to recover from that. If you'll hang with me, I'll tell you more about that. Many of you have asked me to share more about my PTSD and how I recovered from that. And today I'm going to talk some about that. And I wanted to warn everybody beforehand. So if you would be triggered by me speaking about my abuse, I just wanted to give you that respect if you choose to not watch. So from the earliest memories that I had, I was what you would call the scapegoat of the family. And my dad, there's an old story about a man who his boss abuses him and then he goes home and kicks the dog. Well, we didn't have a dog. And somehow that anger when he came home from work got projected upon me. And he was very abusive. And from an early age, I knew that it was dangerous when my dad came home. So what I would do is I would run and hide under my bed because that was like the only place for safety from this abuse. And but what would happen is he would yell out my name, and when I wouldn't come, he would come into my room and take me by my legs and pull me out from under the bed, and he would abuse me. And it was very severe, and I was really messed up as a child from very, very young. You know, my earliest memories were like 3 years old, I think. And this happened from that age. Now, the only way that I know that I really survived is very young, and I can remember this at 3 years old, that I asked Jesus into my heart. And he's been there with me my entire life. He's been comforting me. I've just had such a beautiful relationship with my God. I call him Yeshua now. That's just his Hebrew name, but he's been faithful, and he's been in my heart, and he's filled me with his spirit. And so even though I went through a lot of abuse, he's changed that. He's healed that. But it took a long time to be completely healed. And even though he was there with me, I don't know, I don't know why he allows things like this, but there's a lot of people in this world that are really messed up. I know when I was about 20 years old, well, maybe 24, I asked my mom why it was that she always kind of directed his anger toward me. And she said that I was the hardest child for her to love. And I just look at that. I've studied psychology, and I don't understand people. I don't know what the hurt in their background was or why they do what they do. But I did live in a family that was the typical scapegoat. They had a lineup for every single child and how they treated them. And certain ones were protected and others were allowed to be abused. And so I was the middle child, and I was really abused. So, but, we can talk more about that later. And many of you have said that you're interested in talking about PTSD and how that can be completely healed. And I love to talk about that subject, and we will talk about it more later. But today I want to share about my name, how this affected my name. So as I shared, there's a trigger that I had that when somebody angrily said my name, that I would be just triggered into PTSD. And so when I was married, the man that I finally married at 32, from the time I was 18 to 32, I went through counseling and in churches, and I studied psychology, and I went through deliverance. I was really seeking to be completely whole before I ever married and healed from what I went through. And then I met my ex-husband. I met him in a church, and he was projected himself as the most godly person. He loved the Lord. He knew the Bible. He was just new in the church, and I was a leader in the church. But he just came in and took over. And when he was with me, it was like he mirrored me, and I thought I had met my soulmate. Wow, he was just like me, and I'd been waiting. I didn't believe in divorce, and I didn't want to marry until I knew it was God. And all the other leadership was just saying, oh, this is a marriage made in heaven. And I went into it very quickly, way too quickly, but it was just that there was a lot of coercion and manipulation. And so once I got into that marriage, and I'll share more of that on another occasion, but I just want to talk about my name. And that is that once I got married, he hated my name. He told me I didn't look like a Ruth. He said that every time he said it, he thought he was saying roof, like a roof of a house, and he would make fun of my name. And then he would yell out my name, and I would have this PTSD response. And I was praying and asking God what to do about it. And, you know, it was confusing. We'll talk about that on another occasion. But the fact is that I felt that I could change my name. And so I did. I changed my name. And originally I changed it to Christina. And I changed it legally. And so everybody loved Christina. And, but the problem was that it totally changed who I was. You know, I was Ruth. And even though there was so much pain in that, that's like a biblical name, and it has a lot of beautiful meaning. And Christina was something entirely different. So I felt like I was living a lie in this name. And so years later, I said, I want to change my name. But I didn't feel like I was completely healed from the PTSD with Ruth. And I prayed about it, and I didn't get a lot of direction, but I decided I'd really been into Hebrew, studying Hebrew and Greek all my life. I translated a lot of the Bible, and I just love the original languages. And I decided to change my name to Aaliyah, which means the Almighty is Yahweh, basically. And I just loved him so much, and I learned to love that name. And so I changed my name to Aaliyah, and that's why I go by Ruth Aaliyah now. And I really love that name, but no one knows how to say that name. A lot of people would just call me, Mrs. or Miss, or, they just, I don't know, there just wasn't a connection there. And so people kind of avoided me. It's just an unusual name. And so long story short, I got a divorce, and I went through counseling, and my counselor said, you need to change your name back to Ruth, because you are missing out on who you really are. And I thought, okay, well, I will. And so I changed my name back to Ruth. And when I did, it was so wonderful. It was like I had lost myself for a very long time because I had given up that name. Names are so important. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, is names, how important they really are. And I know that God allowed me to go through that process of being named a couple different names so that I would really understand that there is so much importance in our names. Your name is very important. It's more than just letters. There's a prophetic and an empowering in our name. And I'm so thankful that I embrace my name. And I want to validate your name today. It's very precious. You were named your name for a reason. We'll talk more about all these other things later. I love sharing with you, and I think that giving my testimony and talking more about it, that there's healing in that for everyone. And that's what I'm praying. But today, I'm just saying, I've been freed from that PTSD, and I've embraced my name. I no longer get those triggers, but I think the enemy really wants to take away our names and make them ugly or make us not like them, especially us that really have an anointing on our life. He has a purpose for us, and that name has power in it. And so I just want to affirm to you today that you are so loved, that your name is beautiful, that God was directing when you were named, and you are loved, and everything you do has a tremendous impact in this world. And I just empower you and pray right now that you feel a special anointing on who you are, on your name, and that Yahweh blesses you today, that you feel his spirit and his anointing upon you. It's so nice talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.